I, well, you can sometimes you can have some problems. An example, I spent a long time in the computer. I don't feel very well now. What about
Right.
you? I believe it's the same in the same case.
It's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult. And this morning, that was an adventure we
Yeah,
had in target language class.
yeah.
Have you ever tried to do small? Have any of you done small groups online, like with your target language? Like
No.
starting with a big group and then moving into small groups?
Oh yeah.
No,
Um,
no. We were wondering what kind of program you could use for that because we used Google Meet and Zoom and what was the other one? Blackboard.
uh,
Teams.
Yeah, Blackboard. So we had 3 different groups, and I was hearing 3 different people talking at the same time, trying to distinguish which one was saying what. So it's been an adventure, but I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot. And Lupita, I'm like you. I enjoy being at home with my coffee, not having to leave the house, especially on afternoons like
Yeah.
today. Yeah. So I enjoy that very much. I'm having a good time. It's strange. Sometimes I feel like I'm just talking to myself. I bet the same thing happens to you all. All right. Does anyone know Ixchel?
Michelle?
Ixchel.
Michelle?
Ixchel.
Yes, no,
I,
I don't know.
she's not, there's no one listed on the group. The only ones who are missing are Andrea and Celso. Let's bring her in and see if she's maybe not in the wrong place, or maybe it's Andrea and she doesn't have.
Michelle is here.
Michelle, are you here? I feel like we're playing with the Ouija board. Is the spirit here? Is there a spirit in the
Yeah,
classroom?
Yes, because I listened to something that told me that my computer told me that it shares a unido la reunión.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I put it. Are you here, Ixchel? Are you here?
Yeah, I'm here, but this is not my name. My
Oh,
name is
that's why. So I'm guessing you are either Jose or Celso.
yes,
Which one?
Jose Antonio. I'm
Picking
sorry.
up your hands.
Okay, so I'm glad. Oh, there. Yeah, you changed your name. Good. Okay. We were wondering if we should let you in or not.
Yes,
So
I'm here.
yeah, I'm glad we did. I'm glad we did. Okay. So you're here then today. All righty. So we're only too short. We'll see if they join us then later. Now, let's get started. How did you feel after last class? Did you have more questions that you said, I know she said about this, but I don't know? About the
No,
project, I'm not sure that you would have questions yet because you're just really not sure. You haven't got a lot of information, etc. So, anybody have any
no,
questions or anything?
no, I don't have questions. Just I'm going to ask for suggestions, and after that I'm going to tell you. But no, I think I don't have.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Not yet? All right. Let's get started so you'll have more questions then. Okay. What I'm going to do, let's see. I'm going to make a whiteboard here. Okay. To give you a little bit of information. Now, question, can you still see me with the whiteboard? What do you see on your screen right now? Just the whiteboard? Or do you still see the participants?
I still see the participants.
You can see the participants.
Okay, okay, good. So I'm not talking completely to the screen. You can still see. That's good. All right. So I'm going to give you a little bit. Let me see text. That's what we want here. All right. Today we're talking about, oh no, first of all, before we, sorry about that. Stop sharing. I want to show you a video before I put that up. So let's share something else. The history of the English language. Let's share the computer sound. Now, I'm showing you a video called The History of the English Language in 10 Minutes. And basically it tells you in 10 minutes what we're going to learn all semester, which I think is fantastic because you really could just watch the video for 10 minutes, 13 minutes and learn it, but not as in-depth as we're planning on doing it this semester, all right? So they speak very quickly in this video. And as you listen, you might have trouble understanding. That's completely normal. However, what we're going to do is watch the video at the end of the semester again. And what you're going to find is that you understand a lot more. Because right now, it's not just the language, it's also the concepts that you're not understanding. Okay? So you'll hear some names, you'll see some things, you'll hear some dates, and a lot of sarcasm, puns, the double meaning, double entendre. But you won't quite understand everything. When we watch it at the end of the semester, you'll say, oh, yeah, oh, okay, I understand that, okay. All right, so we're gonna give it a watch through right now, and then we'll be seeing this again at the end of the semester. So let's share. Fantastic.
The History of English in 10 Minutes. Chapter 1, Anglo-Saxon, or Whatever Happened to the Jutes. The English language begins with the phrase, "Up yours, Caesar," as the Romans leave Britain, and a lot of Germanic tribes start flooding in. Tribes such as the Angles and the Saxons, who together gave us the term Anglo-Saxon, and the Jutes, who didn't. The Romans left some very straight roads behind, but not much of their Latin language. The Anglo-Saxon vocab was much more useful, as it was mainly words for simple everyday things like house, woman, loaf, and werewolf. 4 of our days of the week were named in honor of Anglo-Saxon gods. They didn't bother with Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, as they'd all gone off for a long weekend. While they were away, Christian missionaries stole in, bringing with them leaflets about jumble sales and more Latin. Christianity was a hit with the locals and made them much happy to take on funky new words from Latin like martyr, bishop, and font. Along came the Vikings, with their action man words like drag, ransack, thrust, and die. They may have raped and pillaged, but they were also into give and take, 2 of around 2,000 words they gave English, as well as the phrase, "Watch out for that man with the enormous axe." Chapter 2, The Norman Conquest, or Excuse My English. 1066. True to his name, William the Conqueror invades England, bringing new concepts from across the Channel like the French language, the Doomsday Book, and the duty-free Gauloise multipack. French was de rigueur for all official business, with words like judge, jury, evidence, and justice coming in and giving John Grisham's career a kick-start. Latin was still used ad nauseam in church, but the common man spoke English, able to communicate only by speaking more slowly and loudly until the others understood him. Words like cow, sheep, and swine come from the English-speaking farmers, while the à la carte versions, beef, mutton, and pork, come from the French-speaking tops, beginning a long-running trend for restaurants having completely indecipherable menus. All in all, the English absorbed about 10,000 new words from the Normans, though they still couldn't grasp the rules of cheek-kissing. The bonhomie all ended when the English nation took their new warlike lingo of armies, navies, and soldiers and began the 100 Years' War against France. It actually lasted 116 years, but by that point no one could count any higher in French, and English took over as the language of power. Chapter 3, Shakespeare, or a plaque on both his houses. As the dictionary tells us, about 2,000 new words and phrases were invented by William Shakespeare. He gave us handy words like eyeball, puppy dog, and anchovy, and more show-offy words like dauntless, besmirch, and lackluster. He came up with the word alligator, soon after he ran out of things to rhyme with crocodile, and a nation of tea drinkers finally took him to their hearts when he invented the hobnob. Shakespeare knew the power of catchphrases as well as biscuits. Without him, we'd never eat our flesh and blood out of house and home. We'd have to say good riddance to the green-eyed monster, and breaking the ice would be as dead as a doornail. If you tried to get your money's worth, you'd be given short shrift, and anyone who laid it on with a trowel could be hoist with his own petard. Of course, it's possible other people used these words first, but the dictionary writers liked looking them up in Shakespeare because there was more cross-dressing and people poking each other's eyes out. Shakespeare's poetry showed the world that English was a rich, vibrant language with limitless expressive and emotional power, and he still had time to open all those tea rooms in Stratford. Chapter 4, The King James Bible, or Let There Be Light Reading. In 1611, the powers that be turned the world upside down with a labour of love, a new translation of the Bible. A team of scribes with the wisdom of Solomon went the extra mile to make King James' translation all things to all men, whether from their heart's desire to fight the good fight or just for the filthy lucre. This sexy new Bible went from strength to strength, getting to the root of the matter in a language even the salt of the earth could understand. The writing wasn't on the wall, it was in handy little books, with fire and brimstone preachers reading it in every church. Its words and phrases took root to the ends of the earth, or at least the ends of Britain. The King James Bible is the book that taught us that a leopard can't change its spots, that a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, that a wolf in sheep's clothing is harder to spot than you would imagine, and how annoying it is to have a fly in your ointment. In fact, just as Jonathan begat Meribal, and Meribal begat Micah, the King James Bible begat a whole glossary of metaphor and morality that still shapes the way English is spoken today. Amen. Chapter 5, The English of Science, or How to Speak with Gravity. Before the 17th century, scientists weren't really recognised, possibly because lab coats had yet to catch on. But suddenly Britain was full of physicists. There was Robert Hooke, Robert Boyle, and even some people not called Robert, like Isaac Newton. The Royal Society was formed out of the Invisible College, after they put it down somewhere and couldn't find it again. At first they worked in Latin. After sitting through Newton's story about the pomum falling to the terra from the arbor for the umpteenth time, the bright sparks realized they all spoke English, and they could transform our understanding of the universe much quicker by talking in their own language. But science was discovering things faster than they could name them. Words like acid, gravity, electricity, and pendulum had to be invented just to stop their meetings turning into an endless game of charades. Like teenage boys, the scientists suddenly became aware of the human body, coining new words like cardiac and tonsil, ovary and sternum. And the invention of penis and vagina made sex education classes a bit easier to follow, though clitoris was still a source of confusion. Chapter 6, English and Empire, or The Sun Never Sets on the English Language. With English making its name as the language of science, the Bible and Shakespeare, Britain decided to take it on tour, asking only for land, wealth, natural resources, total obedience to the crown, and a few local words in return. They went to the Caribbean looking for gold and a chance to really unwind, discovering the barbecue, the canoe, and a pretty good recipe for rum punch. They also brought back the word cannibal to make their trip sound more exciting. In India, there was something for everyone. Yoga to help you stay in shape while pretending to be spiritual. If that didn't work, there was the cummerbund to hide the paunch. And if you couldn't even make it up the stairs without turning crimson, they had the bungalow. Meanwhile, in Africa, they picked up words like voodoo and zombie, taking off the teen horror film. From Australia, English took the words nugget, boomerang, and walkabout, and in fact the whole concept of chain pubs. All in all, between toppling Napoleon and the First World War, the British Empire gobbled up around 10 million square miles, 400 million people, and nearly 100,000 gin and tonics, leaving new varieties of English to develop all over the globe. Chapter 7, The Age of the Dictionary, or the Definition of a Hopeless Task. With English expanding in all directions, along came a new breed of men called lexicographers, who wanted to put an end to this anarchy a word they defined as what happens when people spell words slightly differently from each other. One of the greatest was Dr. Johnson, whose Dictionary of the English Language took him 9 years to write. It was 18 inches tall and contained 42,773 entries, meaning that even if you couldn't read, it was still pretty useful if you wanted to reach a high shelf. For the first time, when people were calling you a pickle herring, a jobbernowl, or a fopdoodle, you could understand exactly what they meant, and you'd have the consolation of knowing they were all using the standard spelling. Try as he might to stop them, words kept being invented, and in 1857 a new book was started that would become the Oxford English Dictionary. It took another 70 years to be finished after the first editor resigned to be an archbishop. The second died of TB, and the third was so boring that half his volunteers quit, and one of them ended up in an asylum. It eventually appeared in 1928, and it's continued to be revised ever since, proving the whole idea you can stop people making up words is complete snuff bumble. Chapter 8. American English, or not English, but somewhere in the ballpark. From the moment Brits first landed in America, they needed names for all the new plants and animals, so they borrowed words like raccoon, squash and moose from the Native Americans, as well as most of their territory. Waves of immigrants fed America's hunger for words. The Dutch came sharing coleslaw and cookies, probably as a result of their relaxed attitude to drugs. Later the Germans arrived selling pretzels from delicatessens, and the Italians arrived with their pizza, their pasta and their mafia, just like Mama used to make. America spread a new language of capitalism, getting everyone worried about the break-even and the bottom line, whether they were blue chip or white collar. The commuter needed a whole new system of freeways, subways and parking lots, and quickly, before words like merger and downsizing could be invented. American English drifted back across the pond as Brits got the hang of their cool movies and their groovy jazz. There were even some old forgotten English words that lived on in America, so they carried on using fall, faucets, diapers and candy, while the Brits moved on to autumn, taps, nappies and NHS dental care. Chapter 9. Internet English, or language reverts to type. In 1972, the first email was sent. Soon the internet arrived, a free global space to share information, ideas, and amusing pictures of cats. Before the internet, English changed through people speaking it, but the net brought typing back into fashion and hundreds of cases of repetitive strain injury. Nobody had ever had to download anything before, let alone use a toolbar, and the only time someone set up a firewall, it ended with a massive insurance claim and a huge pile of charred wallpaper. Conversations were getting shorter than the average attention span. Why bother writing a sentence when an abbreviation would do and leave you more time to blog, poke and reboot when your hard drive crashed? In my humble opinion, became IMHO, by the way became BTW, and if we're honest that life-threatening accident was pretty hilarious, simply became fail. Some changes even passed into spoken English. For your information, people frequently ask questions like, how can LOL mean laugh out loud and lots of love? But if you're going to complain about that, then UG2BK. Chapter 10. Global English, or whose language is it anyway? In the 1500 years since the Romans left Britain, English has shown a unique ability to absorb, evolve, invade, and if we're honest, steal. After foreign settlers got it started, it grew into a fully fledged language all of its own, before leaving home and travelling the world, first via the high seas, then via the high-speed broadband connection, pilfering words from over 350 languages and establishing itself as a global institution. All this despite a written alphabet that bears no correlation to how it sounds and a system of spelling that even Dan Brown couldn't decipher. Right now, around 1.5 billion people speak English. Of these, about a quarter are native speakers, a quarter speak it as their second language, and half are able to ask for directions to a swimming pool. There's Hinglish, which is Hindi English, Chinglish, which is Chinese English, and Singlish, which is Singaporean English, and not that bit where they speak in musicals. So in conclusion, the language has got so little to do with England these days, it may well be time to stop calling it English. But if someone does think up a new name for it, it should probably be in Chinese.
All right. Did you get a whole lot of that? A lot of information from it? Or did you maybe not so much?
Uh,
I love your answers.
I think it's a lot of information.
Yes, I think it's a lot of information, but yes, it's a lot of information, and I don't know what at the end of the video, the chapter 10, I think, remembered me at the chapter 1 of the book that we are writing.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yes.
That's exactly it. That's basically where we're starting, is the importance of English, or where English is at in the world. But it's a lot of information. And like we said at the beginning, this is basically the information that you're going to be learning this semester. Now, obviously, we're going to be going much deeper into it and working with a lot more than what we saw or heard in the video. But still, it's a lot of information, but it's what's going to make the difference. Here's the thing. You've heard this, and maybe you've even said it, where you have said maybe that you're angry because a native speaker gets a job teaching English, okay? And you say, just because they're a native speaker and I'm studying to be a teacher and you know what? Keep it up. Don't be upset because, you know, a native speaker is getting a job. Because a native speaker of English is missing a lot. Just knowing English is not enough to be able to make them a good teacher.
Yes.
What else do they have? What else do they need?
The knowledge of
what?
Yes, the knowledge, know about, for example, if you want to be a teacher, you have to know about methods, teaching methods.
Okay, let's start there. Let's start there. Yeah, exactly. The first thing is your teaching methodology, right? Knowing how to teach a language, because it's not just sitting there and having students do exercises in the book, and it's not just talking to them about their weekend and what they did. Okay?
Yes.
So it's a lot more than that. What else do they need?
Perhaps they have to want to be a teacher. It's not like because I have a job and a teacher and that's all. No, if you don't want to be a teacher, you are not going to teach anything.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You don't enjoy your work, that things that you're doing.
But what's a native speaker missing? Someone who's teaching English just because English is their first language, and someone like you who's teaching English because they are trained as an English teacher. What else are they missing?
Probably the grammatical aspects.
Okay, a native speaker normally does not know how to explain grammar because, I mean, we know how to use it, but don't know how to explain it.
Yes.
However, hold on a second. Which methods explicitly explain grammar?
Grammar translation.
Yeah.
Grammar.
Yep, that's it. That's it. Grammar translation is the only method that explicitly explains grammar. Therefore, a native speaker does not know how to explain, not need to know how to explain grammar, because grammar translation is the only method that explains it. So a good teacher really doesn't even need to explain grammar. They need to know how to use it correctly. but not necessarily explain it. All right. What else doesn't a native speaker have that you have? Or that you will have? That you will have?
Like the pertinent methods to explain our students how to use like certain forms of the English, maybe.
Okay, that's involved in your methods, right? In your
Yeah.
methods of teaching, learning, right?
Maybe in this case, if he, native speaker of Spanish try to learn English, maybe he's going to have a lack of vocabulary because the English speaker don't know the words or how to explain that word in their native language.
Okay. I'm not sure we're communicating. That's why I look like this. Okay. What's a native speaker of English? Why does a native speaker of English who doesn't have any teaching education or practice experience, right? Why would they not be a good teacher? Because everyone, I mean, a lot of schools, if you have a native speaker with no training or experience in teaching and a student like you, I mean, a teacher like you, who is not a native speaker, but who has learned how to teach class and how to evaluate, and which do you think the school will choose?
Perhaps maybe a native speaker. Sometimes because he or she is a native and you are not.
Right. If we're speaking honestly, probably. Mariana,
Yeah.
were you going to say the same thing?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And also because perhaps the principals or the directors of some schools think like he or she is a native speaker. Perhaps my students will get best pronunciation or will improve their listening, and that's okay. That's better.
Right. They think they're going to be better. The students are going to have a better experience with the native speaker because they'll speak like the native speaker. Okay. And one of the things, what I was getting at before, is the native speaker is missing is exactly this information that we're working in this course. Where does the English language come from? Why do we say what we say? Okay. And why is this going to be important? We had already mentioned a few ideas about when your students have questions or how to teach certain aspects, just to make you overall more knowledgeable as teachers. Okay. So this is going to be one of the areas where you learn a lot about the English language. And even though we're not specifically learning target language here, you're going to build up a lot of vocabulary during this course because that's exactly what we're looking at, right? The language itself. So here we go then, all right? Hold on to your helmets. Not wearing them, are you? I guess I should say put your seatbelts on and put your arms and legs inside the ride. All right. I'm sharing the whiteboard now. I'm taking off the computer sound. Okay. Can everyone see the whiteboard?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
All right, great. What is culture?
Culture.
Culture is
We use the word a lot, but we've never actually defined it. What is culture?
Something that defines like a place or a state could be.
Okay. A place?
It's a way of life.
A way of life?
Yes. Of different, a way of life of different people, and it includes different things. Perhaps the language or the way that they speak.
Okay.
And beliefs and values.
All right. What other ideas do you have about culture? What is culture?
It can be a synonym of a history of a determinate, like, the way they act or the way they like live, or it's kind of the same that Lupita was saying, but it's like more into history. The
Okay.
reasons why they do certain things.
Why they do what they do, right? All right. Any other ideas?
It defines who we are or where we come from or what we're used to doing, what we eat.
Culture.
Okay, who we are. I hear who
like
we are.
knowledge, art, morals. Me? My name is Nanda.
But I think somebody else was talking before that.
Yeah, that was me.
Okay. I'm sorry. What did you say? You
Sorry.
said why they are, how they are, why they do what they do.
It defines who we are, where we come from, what we like,
Okay.
maybe what we like to eat, what we like, how we like to dress, the way we talk.
Okay. Okay. Exactly. It includes all those aspects. Luanda, what were you saying?
And yes, the aspects like knowledge, the religion, art, love, morals, custom, as a part of culture.
Right.
Um,
Right.
This
All of those.
is a whole complex which includes habits as a member of a society.
Okay. All right. Most of you each gave similar and different ideas, and each of you got some part of culture. You included many of the things that are included in culture. What we have here is a definition. Now, you may find other definitions, that's no problems, as the patterns of behavior and thinking that people living in social groups learn, create, and share. Okay. It distinguishes one human group from others. All right. The patterns of behavior and thinking that people living in social groups learn, create, and share. It distinguishes one human group from others. So if we think about a Mexican culture, we think about Mexican culture. What can we say about Mexican culture?
Teacher, well, about that question, I can say that everyone has different concepts of the culture. An example, probably I can have some concepts, probably you can have other concepts. Lupita can, probably she has a different tradition, an example.
Okay. When you say concepts, you mean traditions and ways of acting?
Yeah, tradition, religion. But for that reason, I suppose that we can give a specific definition about what is culture. Well, I suppose that's in my opinion.
Well, the question right now is what would you say about Mexican culture? What would you say is Mexican culture?
I think our culture, it's like a general idea because, but I think our culture in many cases is based in religion or some customs and traditions that we have.
All right.
Based in religion, but also I remember when I took manifestaciones culturales. One day we were talking about Mexicans adopt and adapt culture from other countries.
Right. Right. In very large quantities. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the question here that we have is, I'm asking what is Mexican culture? Can you tell me what Mexican? I mean, in other words, can we generalize Mexican culture?
Sorry,
Just some things
we
such
can.
as the
I'm
day
sorry.
of. Okay.
Fight it out there, okay?
Go for it.
Okay, I think that as the definition says, it is a pattern of a group of people. In this case, we can say that our culture as Mexicans can be like the Day of the Dead because it's something that every Mexican celebrates. Like, we cannot say, for example, that the culture here in Puebla is just the same as in another state, but we have some patterns that we share because we are Mexicans. So I would say that you cannot say that. The definition of culture, it depends of what you are comparing to. Like, you cannot say the culture of the world, but there are some patterns that we have in all the world that can be our culture. It depends of
Mhm,
how big you are, like, comparing the culture. But
mhm.
for Mexicans, I think that the Day of the Dead, the food.
I
mm,
agree.
And
Okay.
no, I'm not exactly agree because, for example, the food, yes, it could be, yes. But in celebrations that such as the Day of the Dead or things like that, as I said, our culture is based in especially in celebrations is based in many cases in religion. And for example, perhaps Catholic people that is of this religion celebrate the Day of the Dead and Christmas and that. But um, I know about some people that, for example, I have a friend that she's Testigo de Jehová for that, and
What's that in
they,
English? What's that in English?
I don't know with.
Well, find a different way of saying it. Find a different way of saying it, a different word. Explain, describe.
I don't know how do you say that in English.
Well, I
but
know, but here's the problem. This is for everyone. What happens if you're talking to someone who doesn't understand Spanish?
Okay.
You need to describe.
Communicate. Thank you. Someone's in target language with me, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Okay.
got it.
She is from a different religion.
Okay.
She's not Catholic,
Right.
and in her religion, they don't celebrate. Um, they don't celebrate anything. Christmas, Day of the Dead,
Right.
birthday, Mother's Day, anything,
Right.
because I think it is like part of their culture, but it's because they read the Bible and they
Mhm.
say that that's not true, or they have other beliefs and that.
Sure.
And
Okay.
we don't share that as Mexicans because also they are Mexican, but they
Sure.
have other ideas,
Other beliefs, other way of doing
other
things.
beliefs.
Exactly. That's
Yes.
exactly it. I mean, grouping everyone together as Mexican and having a Mexican culture is basically impossible. Okay. Javier, were you going to say something earlier? Or who's?
Yes, but I already forgot what I was gonna say.
Oh,
So
David. Okay. I thought it was the other Javier.
no.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, we'll catch up later then. All right. Exactly. I mean, to group everything together as Mexican culture is impossible. Even food. I mean, food is very different here in Puebla, in Veracruz, in Oaxaca, in Chiapas, in the north. It's very different everywhere. So to say Mexican food, right? It's you can't group everything together like that. To say Mexican traditions, even for example, Day of the Dead, everyone might celebrate it, and not even like Lupita said, there are groups like the Mormons, like the Jehovah's Witnesses, who don't celebrate holidays like that. But those that do celebrate Day of the Dead, does everyone celebrate it the same? We see that many people celebrate it very differently. They set up altars that cost thousands of pesos. Others set up very simple altars. Some go to the cemetery and have a picnic with their loved ones, their deceased. Others stay at home and do other activities. Others dress up in Halloween costumes and go out trick-or-treating. Okay? So even though we can categorize ourselves as Mexican, we don't have a Mexican culture. You have many different cultures within Mexico. And the same thing is going to happen in other countries, right? We think of Americans. Let's group everyone who lives in the United States together and call them Americans. And we're going to say, Americans eat hamburgers and hot dogs every day, right? Americans, what else? What else do you know about Americans?
They love peanut butter and jelly together.
Americans love peanut butter and jelly together.
What about pizza?
Yeah, Americans eat pizza all the time, but not Hawaiian pizza because that's just gross. I like it personally. I like Hawaiian pizza, but many don't. All right. But all these stereotypes that we have about different cultures, we can't group people together and say all Americans do it this way. All right. What do I eat on New Year's Day? Well, technically, I don't eat it. My family eats it. Anybody know what we eat on New Year's Day?
Turkey could be.
That's a good guess. That's a good guess. Many people do have turkey and stuffing and potatoes on New Year's Day. We have that for Christmas. Okay? And one year I said to my nan, I said, why do you make this every year? Can't you make some turkey? Because I hate what we eat on New Year's Day. I said, can't you make some turkey? And she said, no, Marcia, because your luck will fly out the window if you eat turkey on New Year's Day. Okay? However, many people do eat turkey because they don't have that belief. My family, as we met, oh no, we didn't mention this last time. All right? But my family is very much influenced from our German traditions. And so on New Year's Day, it's good luck and tradition to eat pork and sauerkraut. Yeah, and my daughter's making her face behind me here. It's the same face that I make. It's disgusting. Oh, I don't like it. I don't like it. But my family digs into it like there's no tomorrow. Okay. The funny thing is, this year, last December 2019, we went and visited, and we're always invited on New Year's Day to the meal. But of course, my mother says, now you bring what your family's going to eat because we're having pork and sauerkraut, you know. So we made shrimp and lemon pie and all kind of good things instead of pork and sauerkraut. All right. Many people do eat turkey. We don't, because it's not good luck, because it's not tradition, because it's not what we do. But we live in the Pennsylvania, New York, Ohio region that's governed by German immigration. And therefore we have those traditions. Okay. So we're going to look at some things that culture includes. And many of you had already mentioned some of these. So for example, we have beliefs, the beliefs that different people have. Okay. We have rules of behavior. Right? In some cultures, it's okay to behave a certain way, and others, it is not. Language. Obviously, one of the big characteristics of culture is the language that the people in the culture share or maybe do not share. Rituals. Art. Okay. Let's get into here. Technology. Style of dress. Food. We've mentioned many of these already. Religion also is a very big one. political systems, and economic systems. All right. Can you think of any others that are not included here? For example, music. Music is a big one, right? Which would be included here in art. Okay. Symbols. Symbols is another one, which would be
History.
included here in language. Yeah.
History.
History. Okay. History. Now, it would come a bit in like beliefs, rules of behavior, because that comes from history. But yes, as itself, and then history gives way to traditions. Okay, we have rituals. Let's add traditions. Right?
It can be
Yes.
about legends or things like that.
Again?
It can be legends.
Okay, legends, I think would come into traditions and history, these ideas. All right, but yes, definitely legends.
It could be cinema.
Film, all right.
Yeah.
Film would come into art along with music. Anything else?
We have values.
Values, okay. Now, values come into beliefs and rules of behavior. Okay,
Yes.
but yes, it's an important one because I think your whole value system, I think it would also come into religion, okay? But your value system is basically what makes you you, what you believe to be right and wrong and good and bad, okay? So yes, your value system. Anything else you can think of?
Probably and science.
Again?
Probably and science.
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding what.
Um,
Say it again.
and science could be is very similar to technology.
Science.
Technology.
Science?
Science.
Science? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Science? All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be included in there in technology. Okay. Because we see
okay.
technology and we think of computers and those kind of things. But technology would also be things like medicine and science and
Medicine.
industries within, right? Healthcare, possibly. Okay. All right. We have a good list here, right? We have a very good list here. Right? And this is what we have included as culture. Our biggest one that we're looking at right there right now is language. But you're going to see how language is influenced by these other aspects of culture that we have included here. All right? We're going to get into that more later. We have 4 aspects, 4 characteristics of culture. All right? So our characteristics of culture, is that culture is symbolic, culture is shared, culture is learned, and culture is adaptive. Okay? Culture is symbolic, culture is shared, culture is learned, and culture is adaptive. Let's go first with learned. Okay? When you are born, you are not born with culture. You're not born with culture, right? Do you learn culture or acquire it?
Acquire.
Mostly, yeah. The word they use here is learn. However, the word, if you're looking, you as teachers, you learn the difference right away between acquisition and learning. So if we look at it, culture is actually acquired, not necessarily learned. Because sometimes we don't even know why we do things. Why do we talk the way we do with the accent? that we have? Why do we dress the way we dress? Why do we eat what we eat? Why do we have the rituals or the traditions that we have? Why do we have the values that we have? Because our parents had them, our grandparents had them, our friends have them. And all of that influences how we come out, what we get from that. So nobody is born with culture, just like nobody is born with language. Remember, people are not born with language. They're born with the ability to learn and acquire language. Okay? So we're not born with culture either. Someone who is born in China from a Chinese family and who is taken out of that environment at a very young age really has no idea, how they celebrate holidays or how to speak Chinese or what kind of traditions or rituals or have the same values as a Chinese family, just because they weren't in that culture and they weren't born with it. Okay. Children learn from adults more than anything. We acquire from adults. We acquire from our siblings, our older siblings mostly. I learned a lot of things from my older sisters. We learn how to produce food, how to build shelters, how to make money, how to have skills to make money. We learn to follow the rules of society. Obviously, we learn to speak and understand language. So culture is learned. You're not born with it. You have to acquire or learn that. It takes time. The expression that we have here is enculturation. Okay. Anybody have any idea what enculturation is?
I think, I don't know, but I think it's like the influence of other cultures or in different, I don't know how to explain that.
Mm-hmm.
Or the influence or of culture.
Right.
The social influence.
Okay, getting closer.
I think that is the process of getting your own culture.
Okay.
But I don't believe that because we don't have the opportunity to choose the culture or the religion or the language, because you only acquire the culture that you normally are living.
Right, right.
I meant more like when you are like this age, like when you start
Yes.
picking things from different cultures that you like.
Oh, it could be.
Yeah, yes, I think you have the opportunity to choose a part of your culture, but it's just
Sure.
when you are like bigger, when you're a child, for example, you don't have this opportunity but when you are like
Older.
older, you can think better and you
Right.
start to make questions about different things that you do, like why we celebrate that, why, and perhaps you start to meet more people and they have different cultures, like your friends or your teachers, I don't know, and they explain you other things and they tell you their beliefs and that, and perhaps you say I want to change that in my life, in my culture.
Right. And maybe you consciously say, I want to change that, but maybe unconsciously you start changing and you don't even realize it. Have any of you been abroad? Have any of you gone to a camp or worked abroad or gone on exchange?
No.
Yes.
No? Yeah?
Yes.
What happened when you came back?
Well, when I came back, I was like really used to the things in the way that I learned to do it, like in the States. Like it was a different way, so I changed it completely. And so when I arrived back here in Mexico, I was like doing it like in there.
Completely differently. Now, this is something that maybe you didn't do consciously. You thought you came back exactly the same as you left. But once you're back, your family says, you've changed, you're different, You talk funny. You do this, you do that. I've heard that all my life, okay? You think you've come back the same, but you've come back very differently. So maybe you don't consciously change what you do, how you do it, how you think, but it happens. It happens while you're gone, okay? So you didn't do it on purpose, but you changed. And you've acquired different culture, different ways of doing things. But all of you had a point there in enculturation. Basically, enculturation is cultural transmission, meaning it's the process by which you receive your culture, right? Your family transmits culture. Your church transmits culture. Your town and the way people act and greet each other transmit culture. Your sisters and brothers, your siblings, your cousins, your friends, everybody that you come into contact with, everywhere that you go, school, church, social club, sports club, you're having culture transmitted to you, all right? This process of cultural transmission, enculturation, lasts your entire lifetime. You can be 80 years old, 90 years old, and you may still be having different cultural aspects transmitted to you. You may be changing the way you do things, changing the way you speak, changing the way you think. Okay? My grandmother, a quick little story, my Nan, now this is going to sound very racist, I know, but stick with me till the end of the story. And remember, it's my grandmother, okay? My grandmother used to tell me when I was a teenager, never to marry a black man. She was so politically incorrect and so racist. I know. But it was her generation, okay? She said, no, never marry a black man. Don't marry a black man. I said, we live in a small town with no African-American families, you know what I mean? Anyway, she said, don't marry a black man, never marry. And I'm like, years later, when I was in college or something, she goes, well, you could marry a black man, but don't have children too. And I'm going, what? And she said, listen, it's just because the children are the ones who suffer. They're not accepted by the whites. They're not accepted by the blacks. They're kind of right in the middle. And this is the language that I'm using is the language she was using. Please don't judge me on that. But I think it's very interesting that in that period of time, you know, the years that she said this to me, she went from don't marry one, don't get into a relationship, to, okay, you can marry one, but don't have children. You know, my grandmother was 60 years old when this happened. And you think, now this is a person who was raised in the early 1900s. Things were very different. You know, nobody's proud of what happened in the past with the African American, with civil rights. However, she had certain ways of thinking, okay? So I thought it was interesting that she was able to change her way of thinking. What do you think influenced her to change her way of thinking?
The preference of the person.
The preference of what? Of her?
Of everybody. Because if I have one preference, I my studies, my attentions, my arts, to focus on that way, and avoid another things that me separan de mis preferencias.
Forgive me, what did you just say?
To get close that seems to me important, and go away from another things and don't make an interest for me, for example.
Okay. I'm not quite sure what you're saying. I'm assuming that it was because she, you know, she had one way of thinking, a very strong way of thinking. And you guys all know old people, I'm telling you. And I'm calling them old people, older than me. They're very stubborn. very stuck in their ways, very set in their thoughts. So what caused those changes, right? Society. Society, Daniel?
Yeah, I think that is more of this society, like I don't know if it's ethics or moral. I don't remember very clear which one is the one of the society, but I think
Mhm.
that is something that is happening all the time. For example, nowadays, the sexualism is something that is changing,
Right.
and it's not just because of like we suddenly just realize. It's because everyone is making a movement around the world, and I think that maybe your grandmother by that time, depending what you were living in the US, you were like watching a lot of this message of not racism, that everyone is equal, and you are getting and it sticks to your mind, and you start to see that if you think different is not moral correctly, so it's not
Mhm.
good for you, and it can also happen that you just realize that there's no any problem that someone is different from you, that we are equals at the end. So I
Right.
think that is more this message of the society as sexualism
Right. It's
nowadays.
becoming more acceptable, more acceptable, more acceptable, right? Values are changing, beliefs are changing, rules of behavior are changing. Many of these aspects that we have in here in culture are changing in society, and she's following the times, all right? Um, Here we go, right? 5 years later, my sister starts coming to family events with her friend, Kelly. And Kelly is at all of the family events now with my sister. And everyone says, who's going to tell Nan? Who's going to tell Nan? Who's going to tell Nan? Until finally one day Nan said to my sister, she said, I don't care. I'm just happy you're with someone you love. I just don't want to see any shows of affection, you know. I don't want to see you holding hands. I don't want to see you kissing. I don't want to see you, right? We never thought my grandmother would accept a girlfriend for my sister. We never thought that. And so we were amazed when one day, boom, she said, I'm okay. If you're happy, that's fine. I just don't want to see, any part of your relationship. I think that's pretty amazing for a person like that to accept and to open up. Why did that happen, Daniel? I think it's just what you said right there, right? Society begins to accept it, it starts changing. There you go. There you go. So culture honestly always changes, always changes. We're being transmitted our entire life, okay? And this culture, the amount and complexity of learning and culture is unique to human beings. It's unique to human beings, all right? Our next point is culture shared, right? And here we see, I think this is a little more obvious, a little more visible to everyone. We share languages and traditions and dress and food and holidays. Societies.
Everything.
Yes, exactly. No, well, not everything, not everything, right? We do share many things, but not everything. So culture, or society preserves culture more than one person alone does. So if you do something uniquely you, right? What happens when you're not here? If you have a certain tradition that you do, or you have a value, the day you're not here, what happens to that tradition or that value?
It can be like they're still going, or they can die if you don't have like kids that follow what you used to do.
Exactly, exactly. If it's just you, eventually it goes with you. Society as a whole, including your family, right? Children, grandchildren, et cetera, they may continue carrying that on. So society preserves culture better than individuals, okay? Because once an individual is gone, that culture is gone also. Here we have a concept, lost it here. Okay, the concept is ethnocentrism. Anybody know what ethnocentrism is?
Um, let me loaded. It's when culture, I don't know, it's like culture that is shared by a group of people or something.
There's more to it than that. It's shared by a group of people, but there's more to it than that.
It's a group of people that feels up and another people that feel more than other people.
Okay, they feel superior to others, right? So we have ethnocentrism is the notion one's culture is more sensible or superior to others. Okay, the notion one's culture is more sensible or superior to other. Be careful with the word sensible. Okay, that's a false cognate in Spanish. Not sensible, but the word for sensible in Spanish is a false cognate. This affirms people's shared beliefs and values. So if you have a group of people who share these beliefs and values, you may have groups that start believing their culture is superior to others. Can anyone give me an example of groups of people who feel that their culture is superior to others?
It's not similar with what happened with the Germans and the Jews.
Exactly. The whole reason, forgive me, hold on a second. The whole reason for the Holocaust is because a group of people believed that their culture and their physical appearance and intellect was superior to others. Therefore, now be careful. Remember that in Nazi Germany, the Germans are not always the bad guys. Many Germans suffered a lot during this period of time. It's very similar to what's happening in the United States right now, where you have people who follow Trump and people who don't, right? The ones who follow Trump, yeah. The other ones are like, oh gosh. Same thing happened in Nazi Germany. So, but we did have a group of people, a very large group of people, who got away with terrible, terrible acts because of their ethnocentrism. Okay. Another example?
I was thinking about something, but I am not sure. Could be when, how do you say, when the Spanish are reached to American continent?
Okay.
I am not sure.
Okay, so you're saying the conquest of many countries on the American continent, right? You have, now this is funny, I'm going to say the word. You have the conquistadors. That's a Spanish word that's now English also. The conquistadors, Cortés, Pizarro, Colón, Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and you have them coming over, and right away they felt that their European-ness was superior to the natives living in America. Okay, and you had massacres, slaughters, submission, changes in religion, changes in culture, changes in the way they ate. So yeah, they came in. That was very drastic because they came in and just changed everything. But yes, a belief that their culture was superior to others, culture, language, all of that. Yes.
Another example can be Ku Klux Klan.
Can be what?
Ku Klux Klan.
Uh-huh. Oh, the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the place on the Yucatan.
No.
Right. The white supremacy, right? The Ku Klux Klan. Sure. They believe that they're not so much their culture. That was a little different because it wasn't so much their culture, but it was about their race. All right. Now, race, I think, is one of those factors in culture. But it was really more about a race issue than culture itself, even though culture is in there, or race is in culture. Mm-hmm. All right, one more example.
Yes, teacher. But I have a question. The notion that one culture is more more or superior to others is your own culture, or could be like otakus than that think that Japanese culture is superior to their own culture.
That's interesting, okay? Because normally ethnocentrism is the belief that my culture is better than another. However, I don't know if there's a name for that. Let's check. Because in this case, you're talking about people who are not Japanese, but for example, there are people here in Mexico who believe Japanese or Korean culture is superior to their own culture.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That's not ethnocentrism, because ethnocentrism is your own culture is better. But I'm sure there's some term for that. Let's check that. Okay. You believe someone else's culture is superior to yours. Okay. Any other examples? One more example? Anyone?
Terrorists, maybe?
Wow, that's interesting. Terrorists. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Now, in the case of terrorism, a lot of that has to do more with religion than other aspects of their culture. Okay? So a terrorist is not so much thinking about economic systems or history or values, although many of those come into religion, right? Rules of behavior, beliefs, values come into religion. So this is very much a religious issue, along with government, okay? It's a very drastic example, but yes, that's basically the idea behind terrorism, that they believe that something is wrong with the culture that they're attacking, okay? Terrorists don't attack everyone in the world, right? Has a terrorist ever attacked Mexico?
No.
No?
Not
Why
yet,
not?
not yet.
Yeah, no, come on. Knock on wood there. Why not? Why not? Why hasn't a terrorist attacked Mexico?
Maybe because we have the same way of thinking, could be like we are like kind of the same
The same as whom?
as them. For example, I think it could be.
I'm not sure how much you're like, are Mexicans like terrorists?
No.
No, but
in some instances, or I think everyone has a little bit of a terrorist inside them.
no,
Okay.
but we have that narcotrafficant. It's very similar.
Yeah, but different. Okay,
Well,
and we're gonna look at that in a second. Terrorists haven't attacked Mexico because Mexico doesn't bother terrorists. You know what I mean? What happens is terrorists do not like this idea of capitalist pigs and godless people who they see on the United States and some European countries. Okay, so Mexico doesn't bother them because they don't know enough about Mexico to worry about differences in culture. Now, the drug dealers, you say they're a type of terrorist? Kind of, yes, but that's not based on religion, is it? Drug dealers, the terrorism there is based on money and drugs. And drugs are money. And money is religion. So yes, they're terrorists. Okay. Ethnocentrism, in many cases, people in the United States seriously believe that their culture is better than superior to others. Okay. You've seen a lot on social media of people in the United States yelling at people and hitting them because they're speaking other languages. So you're in the store, you're speaking Spanish, and someone comes up to you and says, "You're in America, speak English." Right? What would you say to them?
America doesn't have an official language.
There you go, you're learning. English is not the official language. And there was a woman who was saying that English is the official language. I'm like, how am I not there to say America doesn't have an official language? You're a liar. All right. This is what they do. They do that because they feel their culture is superior to that of others. And it's very strong. Okay. Many places in Europe that the same thing might also happen. All right. Remember, ethnocentrism is not everyone. It's not a whole culture or a whole country that feels that way. Every individual is different, so we do have to remember that. All right. Our next one, culture is adaptive. All right. What happens when there's no more food? What happens when there's no more food? The crops are gone. They're not growing anything. We're running out of food. What do? Today, we bring food in. Previously, if there's no food around the area, our ancestors would pick up and move. And they would move to where there's food. We stay more static nowadays. Our ancestors were more dynamic. That's being adaptive. That's changing according to what the situation around you is. If we look at many Native Americans, we have Native Americans living in the south, or in the north of the United States. What happens during winter?
You don't have food, no?
Right, they don't have food and it's too cold to live, so they have to move to somewhere where it's warmer and where they can find more food, because in winter, many of the animals that they would normally hunt are probably hibernating. Okay.
Probably you can suffer some change in your life.
Changes in our life? Yes, yes, definitely. Definitely. Let me ask you all a question. Have you had to adapt to anything?
Yeah.
Online lessons.
Oh, see, you're adaptive. You're adaptive. And we are the experiment, right? We're the first step to that. Online lessons, yep. Have you had to adapt to anything else? You've had to adapt with like being sprayed with alcohol and washing your hands every time you touch something or think about touching something. And so we're going through a process of very quick adaptation to try and avoid getting sick or possibly dying. Okay, so yes, very adaptive in that case, right? Humans at one time were the most successful species in this idea of adaptation, but not so much now. We're very stagnant now, very static. Culture is symbolic. Culture is symbolic. It means that we have the development of complex thoughts, and we can exchange these thoughts, we can exchange these thoughts through symbols. What's the biggest symbol or set of symbols that we have in culture?
Can be the flag, like the flag of Mexico or the flag of US, because for example for the American, for them the flag, it means a lot.
Mm-hmm.
4th of July, everyone is wearing United States of America flags and everything. So I think that maybe a flag can be like a symbol for.
It is a symbol, okay, it is a symbol. But what's the largest symbol that we have in any culture?
The one from the religion could be?
Again?
The one from the religion could be?
What's the one from the religion?
Oh my God, the Christ. I don't know how to say it in English. Wait.
The Catholicism.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. But
Probably,
what's the
probably
symbol in religion?
In religion, perhaps Jesus Christ or
Yeah. Yeah.
In religion, yeah. For example, in Christianity, we have the cross, right?
yes.
And you see a cross and you automatically think, right? Christianity, you think of Jesus, you think of church, you think of many things related to that, all right? But what's the biggest symbol or set of symbols that a culture has?
food.
Eh?
Food.
Could be food. Food.
Food? No. Food wouldn't be a
Oh,
symbol. Food
Uh,
wouldn't be a
history,
symbol. No.
history,
Symbols, symbols, symbols.
the language.
Language, right there. You're thinking, oh, it was so simple. How did I not get that, right? Language is the largest set of symbols that we have because languages are symbols, right? And it's interesting because even though we might have the same word in different cultures, it doesn't necessarily give the same meaning. So it symbolizes something else. Okay. You know the word in Spanish? Now, it can be taken both ways, all right? But I had a friend when I was studying here in Mexico, and he used to call me gorda. And I was always terribly offended when he called me gorda. Wouldn't you be? Wouldn't you be offended?
In my family, everyone calls each other gorda.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. In many cases, you know, people call each other gorda, and you hear someone calling their mom gorda and their sister gorda, and I'm thinking, why do women take that, you know? So very, very, you know, fat gorda. That's the translation. That's what Google will give you. Okay? But the word itself, gorda, is used as a term of endearment, right? You don't call someone gorda to be mean. You call it affectionately, right? It's a term of affection. So it's interesting that you have a word that's translated directly, but given a different meaning. The idea of symbolism or symbolics is that each thing means something. In this case, it has the couple of meanings. Other symbols in language, art, music, flags, colors, symbols.
Fields.
Again?
Fields.
Field.
Cinema. Fields.
Film.
Films.
Okay, film. Film, singular, film. Film as in the industry. Film, what else? As you said, in religion, there's all kinds of symbols. A symbol of a circle with a line here. A circle with a line in top of it. What does that mean to you? Oh. Let me see. Wait, let me see if I can draw it here. It's
Our gender.
draw. It's, where can I draw? Oh. Does this just mean, okay, a circle with a line above it. What does that mean?
That it's to turn on.
Turn on, yeah, that's the power button, right? What about a little antenna with sound waves coming out from the side of it?
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi, exactly. So you have these. What about, I don't know if I remember how to, what's the Bluetooth symbol?
Like a P.
It's
Like a
with you.
P.
B.
Yeah, like a B, like this one. But what am I missing?
Yeah.
What am I missing? This is different.
Nothing, I guess. It's like that way.
No, yeah,
No,
it's
there's more.
different.
You have two extra
Because
It's
it's
in
lines
the two
the
sticks
in the
that,
other side.
yeah, in the other side there are two, like two lines, like here, and you have the B here. There are two lines that continue with the lines that are crossing in the middle of the line.
here. Here,
Yeah, those ones.
Yeah.
like that. Is that
Yeah.
it? Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
just found it here. I was looking for it. Okay. Yeah, because it's like from the whatever Bluetooth Nordic something or other. Okay. So you see this symbol. What does it mean? Bluetooth. Okay. If you would show this symbol to someone who is 90 years old,
It's
what
nothing.
happens? Yeah, it means nothing to them. It's just a drawing a child would do. Okay. Well, yeah, my drawings look like something a child would do. But there's something on YouTube. Who is it? Ellen? Is it Ellen? I think it probably is. They have a quiz. They quiz like someone who's 15 and someone who's 80. And they quiz them on things that 80-year-olds should know and things that 15-year-olds would know. But the 80-year-olds don't know the things 15-year-olds do, and 15-year-olds don't know the things that 80-year-olds do. Why not? The culture has changed. Culture is different. And a lot of this, the symbolism, language. Language. My sister mentioned that her stepson's name means something. I said, what does Phil mean? I mean, Phil means Philip. But in the Urban Dictionary, it means someone who is extremely handsome or I'm going, when did that happen? Yeah, probably in the past 20 years when I was, raising children or something like that. So symbols, even our language, change, constantly change all the time. But they mean something to the people that use them. All right. Each human language uses a fraction of sounds humans can make. And humans are predisposed to using symbolic communication. This is what we've seen in language acquisition class, right? We've seen that human languages use a fraction of the sounds people can make, and we're predisposed. This is the idea of a language acquisition device in your head where the switches are turned off if you don't use them, left on if you do use them, or as Chomsky would call it, universal grammar. So each child is born with the ability to learn language predisposed for it, and they learn whatever or they acquire whatever language they're exposed to. Okay. Give me an example of a skill you learned from your parents or siblings.
Speaking.
Speaking. Okay. Again?
Walking. Because they teach you how to walk while you are like a little kid. They teach
okay,
you
walking, yeah. Walking.
Basically, I would say the values that they give you.
Okay, but a skill you
Skill.
learned from your parents or siblings.
Writing.
You learned how to write from your parents?
I mean, reading, sorry.
Reading? You may have started reading at home, and some children may have had their parents teach them to read, but I think the majority of us learn most of that at school.
Yes.
It can be
Okay.
cooking.
Cooking, okay. Cooking?
How to tie your shoes?
Yes, tying your shoes.
maybe dressing.
Dressing? Even
Taking a
though
shower.
nowadays your parents say, are
Taking
you
a shower,
going out
yes.
with that? Taking a shower? Yeah. You're not just born knowing how to take a shower, sure.
To play a sport, driving.
All right, playing sports, driving. Is there something in your life, a skill that you have learned how to do that your parents or siblings did not teach you? I think that's easier, right?
How to use technology could be.
Yes, using technology. Okay.
Playing an
How to
instrument.
Playing an instrument. As we said before, reading and writing.
Learning a language could be.
Learning, probably learning another language.
Like speaking. Ah, okay.
Yeah, yeah. All right. You know, maybe like you said, playing a sport, playing an instrument, doing these kind of extracurricular activities, many things that you would have done in school. But our basic life systems were taught to us by our parents or our siblings, because those are the people that we had the most contact with in periods of our life that are very important for, right, our development. Tell me about the concept of beauty, your concept of beauty.
Beauty.
Yeah.
Beauty.
Gorgeous.
No, the correct answer is Marsha.
Marsha, the teacher,
Like-
the teacher
like-
Marsha.
Good answer. Good answer. No.
Like our stereotypes, like physical stereotypes.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about stereotypes. Okay. A concept right away. I think of the butt, and forgive me, but now it's a little different. But previously in the United States, if you had a big butt, that was negative. And when I came down to Mexico, the first thing I noticed is that men here really like big butts. You know, not too big, but big enough. Am I right? Look at Daniel's face. He's like, why are you asking me? I'm not. I'm saying, 20 years ago, would you have agreed with this? That's what I saw. That was an idea. For many people, blue eyes, right? Fair skin, blonde hair. You know what happens? Opposites attract. Because in other cultures, brown skin, dark hair, dark eyes are very attractive. Very attractive. Okay? But unfortunately, sometimes we don't, how can we say this? We don't see what our own culture has. We look outside for it. Okay? So in your own culture, those traits are not valued. You use words like prieto, right? And those are very negative words to be using. So you have this idea that opposites attract. Education, your concept of education.
Perhaps a people or a person that has or education is related with values, perhaps.
Right? You would think people with higher education have better values.
Yes, that not always happen.
Exactly, it doesn't happen. And many times people with higher degrees in education are not necessarily better at what they do.
Yes, and also sometimes we think like money is related with education. For example, like people that like rich but they don't have education.
Right.
Poor people sometimes have better education and values that people that have more money.
Absolutely.
And I have other some, for example, values I think also change. For example, my mother think that I have to talk with him like you, in Spanish like de usted.
Okay, more formally.
Yes, more formally, but she's my mother. But for her, yes, but for her, it's like if I talk in a informal way, it's like I'm not respecting her or something.
Right,
Like,
right,
what are you
exactly.
saying?
I've
And
heard that before.
yes, in these times, for example, my nephew talks with my sister and is in an informal way because she's
Uh-huh.
modern. It's like, okay.
And does your mother say, why do you let him talk to you like that?
Not exactly, because it's like, okay, it's like other times in my, like just in my time, or when I was a child. No, it was not. No.
No. What happens is that's the
Yes.
grandson. That's the grandson. The child has to respect their parents, but the grandchild can do whatever they want. Right? Education is funny in Mexico. Tell me if you don't agree with me. People value education in theory, but don't value it in practice. All right? You have the opportunity for an almost free education. How many students take advantage of that?
Not all of them.
Many of them don't. They're enrolled, they're a student, but they don't, I mean, your education is almost free, right? And many people don't take advantage of that. One of the ideas of education that if I have my paper, I can, do anything. I don't know what I have to do, but if I have my paper, that's what happens. Teachers are valued as the people who form our young people. How much are teachers paid? The answer, very little, very little. Definitely not for all that they do. All right. Last one, and I think this is very fitting, especially to this time. Your concept of personal space.
Of what? Sorry, can you repeat?
Personal space. Your concept of personal space.
Personal space?
Yeah. In other words, people getting too close to you or being too far away from you. Right? Coronavirus has changed everything. Because let's look, public transportation, subways, buses, you have people on top of you. There's absolutely no personal space, no intimate space in public transportation. Okay, is that okay with you?
No.
No.
Why?
It's not okay, but it's acceptable.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a fact of life. Okay, you don't like it, but that's how it is, right? Greeting someone by kissing them or hugging them. Do you like it?
Not really.
Okay. Some people do. Some people do. But it's a fact of life. Okay. Standing real close to someone when you talk with them. Like talking to someone and having them right here. And you move back and they move forward. And you move back and they move forward. How do you feel about that?
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
All right. But there are many instances where personal space is not respected. And it's okay. It's the way things are done. Okay. Whereas in other countries, you need much more, other countries, other cultures, you need much more space between people. And there are other cultures that have much less space between people. Now, coronavirus has changed this, and everybody wants distance from everybody else, right?
Supposedly.
Yeah, supposedly. That's when you see the person standing like right next to you back
In the
here.
supermarket.
Yes, drives you crazy, I know. All right. All right, we have finished the first topic there. So in the next class, we'll continue with the Y English, the first chapter. This was a little introductory kind of thing to give us the background about how people think, how things are done, and especially about language, and language as an important part of our culture and as one of our largest symbols. Okay, so we'll start with chapter 1 on Monday then. Any questions?
No. Okay. Yes, I noticed something.
Mm-hmm.
You have Zoom unlimited. I don't know what's the word.
Yeah, did you notice that? The session didn't cut off today.
Yes.
Yes. I bought a license for it. And so I'm having a much better time being able to teach the whole 2 hours without having to come back in and come back in. I'm glad you noticed that. Somebody told me, oh, Javier in our group this morning, I think it was you, wasn't it, that told me about the other program that we might be able to use for target language. So anyway, I had a suggestion this morning for another platform for target language in order to be able to work large group and small group. I'm going to explore that today. And if it works better, I might change us from Zoom to that platform. But let me see what it's like. But in the meantime, at least for this month, we have unlimited time for our sessions, yes. So we don't have to worry about leaving and coming back.
Yes.
All right. So anything else? Let me see. 3, 7, 10, 12, 13 of you still. Okay. All right. If there's no questions, if you think of anything, you know, Facebook. And if not, I'll see you on Monday then. Okay.
Okay.
Have a great afternoon. The sun's coming out now. The rain has gone away. That's crazy. All right. Have a great afternoon. Enjoy your coffee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you. See ya.
See you.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Yeah, excellent class.
Thank you.